Welcome inside episode 638 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains, and I had boots on the ground for the Senators' 5-3 loss last night in Winnipeg.
And Ross, it's a Wednesday episode, so of course we have a SensCentral Citizen for you, and today it's Keely. She joins the show to tell us all about how she became a Sens fan and her excitement for the upcoming season.
So we'll get into all that and more. This is the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Senators your first listen on this Wednesday, September 28th. We are free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube, where the best way you can help the show grow is to like every video simply by clicking the thumbs up and subscribing to the Locked On Senators channel. Pilsy, that was a tough game last night when you look at the results, but they were winning 1-1 after the first period, and that's going to be a victory for me.
You love that winning 1-1 after the first period. I mean, that's what it's all about. So that we'll take the victory there. But in all seriousness, look, I'm actually not too upset with how this turned out. Like if you put those rosters side by side and just did a Dom from the Athletic numbers battle based on his model, I'm sure the Winnipeg Jets probably win that game 6-1 with the difference of competition there, especially the Jets had their top six and the Senators had their bottom six. That's essentially the clash there. So really, I think we got some good showings of guys that normally wouldn't get the kind of minutes they did. I thought in particular that the top line for the Senators, that will be the third line for the Senators, did a really good job in their checking role while also providing some offense. So there's a lot of interesting little nuggets to get into about this game, Ross?
Yes, 100%. And DJ Smith did a great job at making sure the ice time was all split out. No forward played less than 11:50, which was Jace Howerluck. And I actually thought he was pretty decent out there. He was a bit of a buzzsaw skating around. So DJ rolled four lines. They split the goaltending. We'll get into how that affected the game. But yeah, the flow was pretty fun. Like they give up the opening goal to Daniel Torgerson, his first of two. But then less than a minute later, on a beautiful play, Cole Reinhardt, did you know he had that in him? Like backhand upstairs. That was a beauty.
I did not know he had that in him, Ross. And it was especially impressive because I think when you're a young player like Cole Reinhardt and you get the space that he got there, your first inkling is, I got to get in as tight as I can and make as many dekes as possible. But sure, it looked like he had that space, but he didn't have the time. He only had time to do two quick stick handles and then a shot. And that's exactly what he did. He got the puck out of harm's way from the defenseman that was coming back off the turnover. And then before the defenseman had a chance to poke it or cut down the angle or do anything, he had already fired a top cheese. Like, this is a guy, Ross, I mentioned when we talked about our training camp battles. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a sniff at some fourth line minutes if injuries come up, because I think he can be a very, very effective fourth line guy in the NHL, playing limited minutes, checking, playing a hard game while also capitalizing on offensive chances when they come, like he did last night.
Yeah, it seemed like Gambrell, Howerluck, and Cole Reinhardt was kind of the test drive that they got in this last game, whereas the line stayed together for the entirety of the game was Shane Pinto, Tyler Motte, and Mathieu Joseph. Yep. Those three were all +2 in a 5-3 loss, Pilsy.
Yeah, and they played really well. And we talk about pairs on this team. You know, you've got the Josh Norris, Brady Tkachuk. You've got the Tim Stützle, Alex DeBrincat. I think now another pair is Tyler Motte and Shane Pinto. The chemistry these guys had together, both helping out on each other's goals. And Tyler Motte, Ross, that's going to be my Sen Central standout. I mean, he just played so well. We had him in pencil as that third line winger. I've got him in pen now because he played perfectly with Shane Pinto. It seemed like they were really clicking. And like I mentioned, when they acquired him, I looked at his highlights, and sure, the goals don't pop off the page when you look at it as stats, but when he's given opportunities to score in big moments, he has a shot that's good enough that can beat goalies in a quick instant. So I think he's someone that's really going to thrive in a third line role. And apart from his offense, he was blocking shots, he was making hits, and he's a guy that doesn't give up on the play. Obviously it's not a big deal in a preseason game, but there was an instance where all the rest of the line was changing and he was trying to forecheck and keep the puck in the zone, and he's diving out there making sprawling poke checks with his stick, like when you could have just changed with everyone else, but he's just showing he's going to put in an extra effort to try to keep that play alive. So Tyler Motte, Ross, he may be my guy for this season. It's a little early for that, but he's on my guy radar because I love the way he has played for the Sens so far.
He got to wear an A last night.
Yep,
alternate captain.
Well deserved, I think. Yeah.
Yes, the 3 alternate captains last night were Tyler Motte, Mathieu Joseph, and Derek Brassard. I sent out a heavy-handed tweet super quickly, $6 beers. Thank you very much, Candle Life Center, where I said the 3 alternates have combined for 11 games with the Ottawa Senators, forgetting Derek Brassard's first go around with Ottawa, where he played about 100 games. But that's to say, it was still funny that it was a guy on a PTO who's wearing a letter in a preseason game. Kind of tells you about what the rest of the lineup looked like. But there was a lot of opportunity for players to step up. We're going to discuss a pair of those. And then after our Sen Central Citizen, we're going to wrap up discussing the defense of what we saw last night, because that was a big battle. All the young guys were in the lineup. Gannett, Bernard Docker, Thompson, Brandstrom, all of those guys had an opportunity to impress. So stay tuned after the Sen Central Citizen. We'll touch on that. But Pilsy, goalie-friendly show. Mad Sogard was awesome, especially early on in this game. They're up 2-1. I don't understand splitting games, especially they just split a game on Saturday. So they each have played 1 full game, but split into 2. Why not just give one guy the game on Saturday, one guy the game last night? Because this is what happens. It's just Murphy's Law. Mando comes in, and immediately they go to the penalty kill, and you've got Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, Nikolai Ehlers buzzing around on the power play. Yeah, he probably wants that back. It goes right between the legs, but still, man, that's a tough situation to come in.
The issue is you're coming in cold. It's not so much that the ice time is different. It's for the first goalie, it's status quo, right? You're doing the warm up, you're getting in, you're not sitting on the bench for too long. So
you're there for the anthems. And Mando wasn't even on the bench. Winnipeg's one of those buildings where you're in the corner. You're not even in the game. Like, you may as well bring me out of the 20th row up there, and I could put on the pads. It's the same thing, coming in cold.
Yeah, they're sitting on like a foldable chair shoved in the corner of the rink there. Yeah, so it's tough, and especially when you're a big guy like Mando, and we've talked about it. He's had some unfortunate injury incidents where he hasn't got to play a lot, and then with COVID, shortened seasons, stuff like that, he hasn't got the games that he normally would be, or any young goalie trying to develop would want coming into this situation. And yeah, I'm with you, Ross. Like, there's so many preseason games. Why would you split games? Like, that's one thing where I'd like to get Zach Burke's input there, because obviously DJ's got to be talking to him about that. As he's mentioned, he relies heavily on Zach Burke, and I don't know a single goalie that would say it's okay or they're comfortable coming into a game in a split decision. Like obviously, if you're coming in because a goalie's getting pulled, that's not ideal. That's not planned. That happens, but to plan to do that is wild to me, because it's really not fair for Mando, and the results are right there.
Yeah, the results show. Mando did make a beauty glove save in the third period. However, 4 goals on 15 shots. And that's what I'm saying. Like, he faced 15 shots in 27 minutes after coming in cold. I just don't like that.
And how many of those were on the power play?
We can pull that up. That's easy.
Yeah, I've got it. I've got it here. 3, and 2 of them go in. So, like, when you have elite shooters like Connor, Ehlers, Scheifele, like, these guys are going to make you pay on the power play. And if you're coming in cold, you're not able to have your movements. You're not able to have your angles. Your head's not in the game as much as you'd like, especially when you're not on the bench. Because when you're on the bench, at least you're kind of chirping along with the guys. You feel like you're in the action. You're staying light. But when you're just sitting huddled there, shoved in a corner, really detrimental to how you're going to start that game.
100%. So hopefully going forward, we'll get full games for these goalies. We're not sure when cuts are going to come. The teams that didn't practice or didn't play last night, rather, will practice today at about 11:30 a.m. We're recording here. It's about 10:30, but we got a lot to get into. We'll cover that practice as it develops on Twitter at Sen Central, and tomorrow on Locked On Senators. Tomorrow, we're also going to be joined by Kyle Bukauskas from Sportsnet and talk about a swing and a miss for us not having him back on in the YouTube era. His hair looked unbelievable, Pilsy.
I'm convinced he just wakes up like that. Like, I'm sure there's some sort of routine, but like unless someone has a deep dive photo of Kyle getting coffee in the morning without his hair done, I'm convinced it just stays like that.
Absolute beauty. Great guy. Stay tuned for that on tomorrow's Locked On Senators. Before we get to our Sen Central Citizen, I tweeted out at Ross Levitan. I said, I need to talk about Shane Pinto. And it's not just Pierre Dorion that doesn't want to trade Shane Pinto. Has DJ Smith ever played him under 20 minutes?
He got over 20 minutes yet again here. So I think, yeah, if there was trade talks for Pinto, you'd have DJ Smith kind of popping his head in Dorian's office like, hey, can we chat just before you make that phone call? Let's have a quick talk.
Shane Pinto is so good at hockey, and you notice it more when you see him live. Because it's the little intricacies, his stick positioning. I was ISO cam on him every time he was on the ice. And for those chirping me that I didn't wear the Nodak jersey, in warm-ups, we had like 10 guys who have been on the show. I didn't want to play favorites. I didn't want to. I also didn't really want to wear a jersey of a guy who's 11 years younger than me. That's a story for another day, or 10 years. So we split the decision here, and Rach wore the Nodak jersey. I stuck with Alfie. However, my 7-game win streak is over. But the good news for everyone coming to the home opener, we're still on a 5-game regular season win streak, because I lose out on the Ridley Gregg Shane Pinto game from last year in Winnipeg, but still a 5-game regular season win streak. But Shane Pinto, man, like the numbers, they all just jump off the page. Like he was in terms of like shot totals for and against, like this guy, he just brings it in every aspect. He's so much fun to see live. The skating, the way he got his teammates involved. His goal was a perfect example of being in the right spot at the right time. Puck just finds him, and he's able to pull the trigger rather quickly on it. And then his assist as well. Like everything that he brought to the table is what I'm hoping to see all season long from Shane Pinto. What a player.
And Ross, it's that time of year again. We love getting into the momentum goals, and those are momentum goals that he helped out on, especially, the goal that he scored at the end of the period. Heinola just scored to kind of look like the Jets were pulling away, and then Pinto, with only 24 seconds left in the period, he gets one back quickly there. But Ross, I hate to be the party pooper, but I'm on faceoffs these days, and still a lot of work to be done for Shane Pinto in the faceoff dot. He went 5 for 15, good for 33%. That's not going to cut it, especially if you're playing a checking role. You got to be winning those faceoffs so you can start with puck rather than fending up against those other top lines. But my guy, Dylan Gambrell, he led the Sens in faceoffs, going 5 for 8, good for 63%. So I think that's one aspect of, sure, Gambrell, he had a really good offensive chance, didn't get it. He's not a guy that's going to put the puck in the back of the net a whole lot, but he does do certain things well, and I think the faceoffs for him is something that needs to be highlighted.
Yeah, 100%. And with Shane Pinto, he took a team high. He took 15 faceoffs in the game, and when you look at who he took the most against, he actually did well. He went 5 for 9 for 56% against Adam Lowry, who's a known solid faceoff guy.
So that's the only guy he beat, though.
Yeah. 0 for 4 against Scheifele, 0 for 1 against Henry Nikkanen, and 0 for 1 against Tony Nato as well. So interesting there, the breakdown of the guy who maybe he prepared the most to face. He did well. The others, not so much. And Nick Anderson, who a Sen Central Citizen, we look forward to having him on. He's in Winnipeg, and he was sitting near me. He came up and he goes, yo, why is Motte taking faceoffs on the left side for Pinto? And I noticed that a couple times in the game as well. Motte, I think, ended up taking 5 draws, but that's something to watch for as well throughout the season if Tyler Motte's going to be put in situations to take some of those draws. So that's kind of my boots on the ground analysis from last night. And again, stop splitting games with the goalies. One thing we will never stop. We're never going to stop Sen Central Citizen. So, Pilsy, why don't you say hi to one of our favorite sponsors, and we'll get into this week's Sen Central Citizen with Keely.
Absolutely, yes. although it is preseason, you need to start getting ready for the regular season. You got to get in regular season form when it comes to your sports gambling. And the best place to do that is with the number one trusted online sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. You guys know it's betonline.net. It's not just hockey. They got football, basketball, baseball, golf, UFC, boxing, whatever you want, they got it. It's the best spot for all the latest odds, totals, player performance, props, and more. It's the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. So head to the website today or check out on your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. Guys, it's betonline.net, where the game starts.
All right, let's get to this week's Sen Central Citizen. Here's Keely. All right, we're now very pleased to welcome this week's Sen Central Citizen. It's Keely. You can follow her on Twitter at KeelyLynM. Keely, welcome to Locked On Senators. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. So happy to be here with you guys.
Oh, where are we talking to you from?
Ottawa.
Nice. Are you right downtown?
Oh no, Nepean.
All right, so that's even closer to the rink. Are you able to get out to a few games every year, or how often do you get to see them?
Way more often than I should.
That's awesome. How many games do you figure you get to a year?
At least 10.
Nice.
It's a good number.
Yeah, I've got a whole list on my phone of all of the games that I've been to, and it's way too long.
What's the first?
Oh, yeah.
First, it's a Washington Capitals game in 2013.
Nice. Do you have your the record? What's your record of Keely attended games for the Sens?
I don't have the final record, but it's not a good one.
No?
Oh, damn.
No.
Should we be keeping you away from the CTC?
Maybe. I've got a good one against the Bruins, though, so.
Okay. So are you coming to the home opener?
Absolutely.
Yes. All right. There we go.
Awesome.
Love it.
So I'm doing my investigative work right now. Did that Washington game in 2013, did that happen to be in April?
I believe so.
So that was a 2-1 win where, get this, Pilsy, Sergei Gonchar scores the game winner in overtime.
Ooh, that's my guy, Sergei Gonchar. Love it.
Assisted by Erik Karlsson and Daniel Alfredsson. Did you become a Sens fan around 2013, or did you follow them before too?
Oh no, I didn't really become a fan until like 2016.
Oh.
I didn't live in Ottawa before. I happened to be in town and my friends had tickets to the game, so we went, and I was, I don't know, 16 maybe. So it's a fun first experience, but it's not really what got me into the game.
Right. So then what was it that turned you from, I don't even want to say casual fan, but somebody who would enjoy going to games to being locked in as much as you are to this organization?
Funny enough, I hated hockey growing up.
Oh.
So looking at me now, it's very funny to look at. But during the Hamburglar run, I was in my grade 12 year, and Mika Zibanejad actually came to my high school to help somebody propose.
Wow, cool.
The weirdest situation.
Okay.
But after that, I thought these guys were pretty cool. I'm going to start paying attention to them a little bit more. And then the Hamburglar run happened, so a little bit more interested. And then as time went on, I started watching more and more games. I met my best friend, who is another hockey nut.
Cool.
So we started going to more games together, and then it just kind of took over my life.
That's awesome. So why the disdain for hockey before this? What really rubbed you the wrong way?
I had an older brother who
So you spent a lot of time at the rink?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
fair.
much older than I am, so I never got to stay home. I had to go to every single game and practice and tournament, and it was boring for a 5-year-old.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. So I'm glad you found a different spin to get you back into the game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you mentioned a couple guys, Zibanejad, the Hamburglar. Who are some other players that really kind of helped lock you in as a true Sens fan?
I've always been a Pajot fan.
Nice.
I don't know what it was. He was just the first person I was drawn to. He's still one of my favorites, even though he's not on the team. I have his jersey. Always a Stone fan.
Yep.
I didn't really get to watch too much of Alfie, unfortunately, but I'm
Okay.
sure if I did, he would have been probably the top there.
Oh yeah, absolute stud there for so many years. But now this is cool though. I like this. This is usually we have to take Alfredson out of the mix, but with you and getting on, I don't want to say later. I mean, this is almost going on a decade now. Pills. He just shows how old you and I are. But that's great. So we need to give it a little assist to Mika Zibanejad here on his way out. So now that all those guys you mentioned have moved on, who are your favorite players on today's team? Like if you were going to get a jersey today, who would it be?
I'm actually working on getting Timmy's jersey.
Nice.
I've got Brady's. Technically, I have a Brassard jersey, even though he's not officially on the team.
There you go. Yeah.
But I would like a Giroux one as well. Even before, he was always one of my favorite players not playing for the Senators. So now that he's actually on the team, kind of good time to get it, I guess.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Well, we could have just gone over to Keely's Twitter. I mentioned it off the top. Keely Lynn M. Go give her a follow there. The bio, it's simple, Pillsy. Brady Tkachuk, fanboy.
I mean, who among us isn't a Brady Tkachuk fanboy?
No doubt. What is it, Keely, about Brady Tkachuk that makes him the perfect leader in your eyes?
He seems like a guy's guy. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but he just seems like he melds with everybody so well, which I think leads up to being a great guy to lead a team of some, like, especially this team that's so close. You can kind of see he's a heartbeat of it.
Yep. Yeah, that's definitely Brady Tkachuk. Now, speaking of the kind of the heartbeat of the team and the identity, these guys have really bought into DJ Smith's kind of system and how he wants them to play the game. How confident are you in DJ Smith to still be the guy that goes from just having a bunch of kids that are rebuilding, playing meaningless games, to now having a proper playoff contending roster? How confident are you that he can be the coach that helps get this team out of that rebuild stage?
I think with the roster we have now, I feel fairly confident. If we didn't have the summer that we had, then I would say he probably wouldn't stick around for too long. I don't think he would be able to get the job done. But with the guys now, I think they've got a good shot.
Who's the team that you're circling as like, okay, this is the team Ottawa's going to jump if they're going to make the playoffs? Is it Boston? Is it Washington or someone else?
My first thought would be Florida.
I like that. I like them coming back down to earth.
Yeah. I think with the loss of the guys and bringing in all of those ex-Senators that we know
we've already seen this. It doesn't work.
Yeah. I don't feel too confident in them, and I feel like Knight and Bobrovsky I'm not too confident in that pairing.
I like it. That's a hot take. That's a spicy take, Pilsy.
That's a $15 million goalie tandem that you're giving a thumbs down to. So that's definitely interesting.
I like it. I'm on board with that. Now, Keely, if you're Pierre Dorion, we know the summer he's had. It's been great. However, question marks on the back end remain. Are you pulling the trigger and giving up potentially a king's ransom to acquire a Jacob Chychrun or a like-minded defenseman, or are you going to play the patient card?
I would play the patient card. I wasn't too hot on the idea of Chychrun just because you know how much we would have to give up.
Yeah.
I would love if he could bring DeMello back. I was a big DeMello fan. I've actually got him on my sweater.
That's awesome. Nice.
That's amazing.
But I think someone like JVD or Lassie can make the jump, and I don't think we need to give up all of those assets to get someone like Chychrun, especially with his injuries.
Yeah.
It's a little worrisome in my eyes.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. Now, moving from the decor all the way back to the crease, we're #goalie friendly show, as you know. So I feel like I've gotten a different answer on this every time I ask, but who do you think will start the most games between Anton Forsberg and Cam Talbot?
I would probably say Forsberg.
Okay.
I think DJ Smith is more familiar with him and more confident just because he knows what he can do. Obviously, I'm sure because I said that, Talbot's going to go on a heater and prove me completely wrong.
We've never been proven wrong on this show before.
Not me.
No, perfect record through 638. episodes. No, but all jokes aside, Keely, and this is my final question for you. It's what is the one part of this upcoming season that you're most excited about? There's a lot to choose from.
There is a lot to choose from.
The impending return of Dylan DeMello.
I love that. I'm most excited to see how Timmy and Giroux and the Cat go. I think it's going to be one of the top lines in the league for sure if they can figure it out. I think they will.
Now, final question for me, Keely, is who is breakout candidate for this year? Like who of all the players for this Ottawa Senators team that's poised to really make a massive year, who's going to be the one guy that pushes it to the next level?
I'd like to say Sanderson. I think he's going to have a great year. I think he's going to exceed a lot of people's expectations.
Nice.
Not to put too much pressure on the guy, but
yeah, no pressure, but you better be very good right away.
I mean, we kind of need it.
Yeah, I would love to see him with Zub. I think that would really push him forward.
That's awesome. Well, we're looking forward to following along with you on Twitter throughout the year. Everyone else can go follow you there as well. Keely, Lynn, M, and happy belated birthday, Keely, and we appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you. Nothing like getting sick on my birthday.
Stick taps to Keely for joining us. Fantastic conversation with her, and make sure that you're giving her a follow on Twitter as well. All right, Pillsy. So we talked about the game itself, but the game within the game in that 5-3 loss to the Winnipeg Jets and their NHL top 6 is how the Sens D-core would react. We saw the pairings. It was Brandstrom and Gannett. It was Larson with Jacob Bernard-Docker and Dylan Hetherington with Lassie Thompson. I think I'll start out the conversation by saying Brandstrom Gannett just did not work.
No, and I'm not exactly surprised that didn't work. Ross, you and I are very much plugged into the kind of theory that you need yin and yang defenseman pairs, and both those guys, I don't know whether they're both yings or whether they're both yangs, but there's no yin and yang in that scenario. It's just two kind of puck moving defensemen, so that didn't really work. And I don't know with Eric Brandstrom, Ross. Like it really seemed in this game, like this is another example where he's been given the opportunity to be the guy. Like he's the top touted defenseman for this D-core in this game. He's given top minutes, top power play minutes, and he didn't really impress me. And it just seemed like every time the puck got dumped into his corner, Brandy couldn't get rid of it quick enough. And he's just turning it over just so that he can avoid getting crunched into the boards. And I thought there was a bunch of times where he kind of got out-battled physically. And even when he did have the puck and he's supposed to be excelling, he was only okay in my mind. So Eric Brandstrom is still very much on the kind of cloudy, what is he, what isn't he kind of view for me. I was expecting bigger things and I didn't see it.
He got hammered once again in his own zone. My fiance turned to me and she goes, does he always get hit like that? So yeah, he does. Yeah. He really does. But he also makes a couple plays where you're like, okay, nice. He had a couple of good keep-ins on the power play where it was like looking like it was going to clear and he like reached out, kept it in. So I hope he finds a role, but it's getting harder and harder to see that overall potential. There's flashes, and I don't say this negatively, but if he went to the SHL, he'd be one of the best defensemen in the league. Yeah. I just think that the contact in an NHL game and how consistent it is when you go back to get pucks, you have to be able to protect yourself and protect the puck in those situations. Him and Gannett's shot, I'm looking at the natural stat trick right now, at 5-on-5, they were on the ice together for about 18 to 19 minutes, 9 shots for and 20 against for Max Gannett, a 31% Corsi. And I don't know if this was lost in translation. I'm pretty sure names stay the same, but Sylvain Saint-Laurent, friend of the show, he said DJ Smith compared Max Gannett to Nick Holden. And that might be the most wild comparable I've ever seen. Ever. So I don't know if he thinks that he's a yang when he's really a yang.
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
But I don't know. One guy who everyone knows exactly what his game brings, he brought it last night. I love JBD's game. Jacob Bernard Docker was steady. He was great skating, and he looked comfortable with the puck on his stick as well. So I think that he would be the one defenseman out of all of them last night that I would single out as having the best game.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think JBD, he played that simple, safe game that you like to see from him. He broke up a couple good plays.
Yeah, a couple takeaways.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely, if we're looking at the decor here, JBD had the best night in my opinion.
And not only that, but he was playing with this Larson kid, Jacob Larson. I almost said Adam Larson, but Jacob Larson just seems like I think he's what we thought Dylan Hetherington would be, and maybe Hetherington was in short spurts last night and last year. But like, I think Larson's going to get some NHL games. He seems like that perfect call up where you don't mind putting him back on waivers after, but he just, again, steady. That's why it was kind of weird for me that Larson and Jacob Bernard Docker, maybe they were challenging JBD to skate with the puck a little bit more. If they were, good on him. He played well, but it would have just made more sense to me in our projected lineup when we did it yesterday's show before they were announced. We had Larson on one pair with Gannett, and then we had Brandstrom with JBD. Like, it just seemed to make sense chemistry-wise, but hey, the two defensive defensemen worked together. The two offensive defensemen did not.
Yeah, and that's definitely fair to say. I think Larson does have the edge over Hetherington just because he has a decent amount of NHL experience. Like, he got a handful of games with the Anaheim Ducks, whereas Hetherington, I don't know, has that much NHL experience. So I think Larson and Christian Rubens were good pickups for the Sens to have those kind of tweener defensemen, because that decor, if injuries start happening, you might need to rely on those guys more than you'd hope.
20 NHL games for Dylan Hetherington, 9 for Ottawa last season when he averaged 12 minutes per game. So your overall thoughts on last night's 5-3 loss, and are you ready to see this group cut down to about 6 forward lines and maybe 5 defensive pairs and get this goaltending thing under wraps? We've already talked about that, though.
Yeah, we won't dive back into that. I think definitely there's a handful of guys that I think aren't going to make it much farther throughout this process, and not because I don't think they're good enough or anything like that. I just think they're not quite ready for what's ahead of them and where this team is at, especially with the new acquisitions. It's a lot harder to crack this roster. So there's some guys I think it's time to send them back to their respective teams.
Yeah, especially the junior guys, right? Like Ben Roger was a healthy scratch there last night. Like, I don't think he's going to get into a game. Tyler Boucher's gotten into 2 games. He's looked all right. The penalty, I don't love it. He did reach around, but again, Morrissey put on the figure skates and spun around. He did a triple axel there, it looked like. However, like I wrote in the group chat, like, the vet's going to get that call 10 out of 10 times in a preseason game against a kid who has 0 NHL games.
Yeah, I think it's time to send Tyler Boucher back to Ottawa, but to the 67s.
Yeah. Their season starts next week. Like, get him.
That's the thing. Like,
get him
this for Tyler Boucher, this season is all about just getting as much playing time and getting as comfortable as possible. So you've had some looks for him. I think it's much more beneficial to have him get a bit of time in training camp with the 67s, hit the ground running for their regular season, rather than have him playing 10, 11 minutes in a fourth line role in NHL preseason, because he's just not there yet. And that's what I'm saying. It's not a detriment to these guys. It's just where they're at. And I don't think he's there yet.
Do you think there was any jockeying of position between Gambrell, Kastelik, and Brassard when we're looking at that fourth line center spot?
I'm going to highlight Dylan Gambrell as the guy that has the inside track, and they brought him back on that contract. It wasn't a coincidence. They could have just let him go like they did other players, but they saw some value in him, as I see. And I think out of all those guys, he definitely showed the best to have the front running spot for that fourth line center.
Yeah, well, Casty was kind of stuck in a situation where it was different for him, but one he's going to have to get used to, because if he does play in the NHL, that's going to be the role he has to take. But 4 hits, I did like that from Kastelik. Him and Gambrell, the only guys above 50%.
Yep.
I think they probably keep Brass around a little bit longer. I love him as a guy. The interview was awesome, but like, I just don't think he's got it.
And that's the thing. If this is last year's Ottawa Senators, I think he takes the Tyler Ennis role and he finds a spot. This is a different team, different era. I don't think there's room for him unless he's comfortable with being a 13th forward and spending a lot of time in the press box. But I think if I'm kind of reading things right, I think Brassard wants to hit 1,000 games and then ride off into the sunset. Like, I think that's what he's going for this season, and probably he's not going to get that opportunity. I think he should just go back to Arizona and get those games played and then head out of here.
Yeah, no doubt. Great story, though, if he does manage to accomplish that. We'll be following him as a Sens abroad. All right, we already teased what's coming up tomorrow. It's Kyle Bukauskas. Hopefully, we get some movement at Sens camp. My guess would be that Ben Roger and Tyler Boucher are sent down by the next time we have a conversation. And that would leave just Zach Ostapchuk as a junior guy. But again, he's hurt, so he won't be sent down until he's healthy.
Yeah. So just looking at the roster, that's it for
There's
junior
Latimer, Hamara, Chandler Romeo. They've all already been sent down. I guess Kyle McDonald's still there, but he's, again, injured, hasn't been able to get into a game. So curious to see what's next for Sens camp.
Yeah, I think we're getting to the junior cuts for sure.
All right, and then next we'll have to look forward to not only a game Friday and Saturday, but then my guess is Sunday we'll have a practice with Troy Mann, we'll have a practice with DJ Smith, and that's when the real projections will start at who will start in the National Hockey League when the puck drops on October 13th. For more, visit us on Twitter at Sen Central, on Instagram, LockedOn.Senators. Thank you to Keely for joining us as a Sen Central citizen. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.